Welcome back to Chess Tactic Today. In round 11 of Titled Tuesday, we've got a blitz showdown between Esipenko and Magnus Carlsen. The game launches into a sharp Sicilian, with both sides pushing pawns and trading blows right out of the opening. King's castle on opposite wings, pieces fly across the board, and the tension builds with every move. This one is fast, furious, and full of tactical punches. Let's dive in. White opens with the king's pawn to e4. Esipenko claims the center, opening lines for his queen and bishop, the most popular and ambitious start. And in response, Magnus Carlsen plays the Sicilian Defense with pawn to c5. He's immediately fighting for the center from the wing, creating an imbalanced position. This tells us right away, Magnus is here to win. White develops the knight to f3, a very standard move, preparing to challenge Black's central control by playing d4. Black plays pawn to e6. This is a solid choice in the Sicilian, preparing to develop the dark squared bishop and controlling the key d5 square. It's a bit more reserved than other Sicilian lines, but don't be fooled, it can be incredibly venomous. And there it is, pawn to d4. Esipenko immediately opens the center, accepting the challenge. This is the start of the open Sicilian, leading to sharp, tactical battles. Carlsen obliges, pawn takes d4. He trades a wing pawn for a central pawn, a classic Sicilian idea that gives Black a long-term structural advantage in the center. Knight takes d4. White recaptures, placing a strong knight right in the heart of the board. This knight will be a key piece for a while. Black plays pawn to a6. This is the Khan variation. It's a subtle but powerful move that prevents any annoying knight or bishop jumps to b5 and prepares queenside expansion. White develops the bishop to e3, a solid, flexible move, supporting the center and preparing to castle. It keeps options open. Black develops the knight to f6, which puts immediate pressure on the e4 pawn, a very natural developing move. And Esipenko responds with bishop to d3. He defends the e4 pawn and places his bishop on a strong diagonal, eyeing Black's kingside. Carlsen develops his queen to c7. This move does a lot. It connects the rooks, adds more control over the e5 square, and prepares to challenge White in the center. Pawn to c4 from White. This is a very interesting choice, creating a Maroczy bind structure. Esipenko is trying to clamp down on Black's central breaks and restrict his pieces. Knight to c6. Carlsen immediately challenges White's central knight. He's saying, if you want to control the center, you'll have to fight for it. White decides to trade. Knight takes knight on c6. This resolves some of the central tension, but wait and see how Black recaptures. It's a critical choice. And it's pawn takes knight with the d-pawn. By recapturing toward the center, Carlsen opens the d-file for his rook and gives his queen's bishop a clear path to develop. The structure has changed dramatically. Now we're seeing Esipenko's plan. Pawn to f4! A very aggressive move. He's building a massive pawn center and getting ready to launch a kingside attack. Carlsen strikes back immediately with pawn to e5. He's not going to sit back and wait. This move challenges White's pawn chain and fights for control of the dark squares. White pushes past with pawn to f5. The position is getting locked up. This creates a clear strategic battle. White will play on the king side, and Black will look for counterplay on the queen side. The battle lines are drawn. Bishop to b4 with a check. A very useful move from Carlsen, forcing White's knight to move and disrupting his development just a little bit. Knight to c3. White blocks the check. This is the most natural move, developing a piece and solving the immediate problem. And now pawn to c5 from Black. A brilliant positional move, clamping down on the d4 square and making it difficult for White's pieces to find good squares. This sets up a long-term strategic fight. The first wave of the attack begins. Esipenko launches the pawn to g4. He is signaling his intention loud and clear. He's coming for the Black king, wherever it may go. This is a real declaration of war. Carlsen plays pawn to h6, a very important prophylactic move. He stops the white pawn from advancing to g5, where it would kick his knight and cause all sorts of problems. But Esipenko isn't stopping. He continues with pawn to h4, reinforcing his g-pawn and preparing to pry open the kingside files. The pressure is mounting. Black develops his bishop to d7, a quiet, multi-purpose move. It prepares to connect the rooks and gets ready for the next phase of the game. Rook to g1. Now the plan is crystal clear. White is going to use this rook on the g-file to batter down the defenses around Black's king. This is a very dangerous setup. Bishop to c6. Carlsen now develops his last minor piece, putting pressure on White's e4 pawn and challenging White's control of the center. Queen to c2. A good defensive move, protecting the e4 pawn and connecting the rooks. White is shoring up his position before continuing the attack. Bishop takes knight on c3 with check. Carlsen decides to trade off his bad bishop. The real point here is to damage White's pawn structure. Notice how this changes the game. Pawn takes bishop. White recaptures, and now he has doubled pawns on the c-file. This can be a long-term weakness, a target for Black's pieces to attack. And there it is! Magnus Carlsen castles queenside. The king runs to safety on the opposite side of the board from White's attack. We now have an opposite side castling situation. It's a race to see who can deliver checkmate first. Esipenko castles queenside as well. He gets his king to safety and connects his rooks. Both kings are now tucked away, and the real fireworks are about to begin. Who will strike first? Queen to f5, a fantastic move from Carlsen. The queen swings over to the queenside, putting immense pressure on White's weak pawns and creating immediate threats against the White king. White defends with rook to d2, a solid move to protect the sensitive squares around his king. It looks like the position is stabilizing, but don't blink. And right here, in this moment of peak tension, Carlsen uncorks a thunderbolt. Just look at this move. Rook takes bishop on d3, an absolutely stunning exchange sacrifice that sends shockwaves across the board. The engine loves it, and so do we. This is the move that breaks the game wide open. Esipenko has no choice. Queen takes rook on d3. He has to recapture. He's up material, but at what cost? Carlsen's sacrifice wasn't about material. It was about tearing open lines to the White king. And here is the devastating follow-up. Bishop takes pawn on e4. This is the 1-2 punch that seals the deal. The White queen is attacked. The rook on g1 is hanging, and White's entire position is collapsing, like a house of cards. A truly brilliant and decisive combination from the world champion. And just like that, Esipenko resigns. A magnificent, decisive victory for Magnus Carlsen, all stemming from that spectacular sacrifice on d3. That move is a lesson for us all. Sometimes you have to give up material to unleash your pieces. Thanks for joining us on Chess Tactic today, and we'll see you for the next brilliant game.